Statistics show that 78.7% of Americans watch porn. Further statistics in the UK show that the rate of porn prevalence among young men has quadrupled, which technically means that it has been increasing by 250% since 2010. And in Africa or Kenya, statistics show that 1 in every 3 men and 1 in every 5 women watch porn. Welcome to this channel. My name is Samuel Washika. My purpose is to help young people reinvent their lives in God and realize the potential within themselves. Today's topic is about the challenges that people encounter with masturbation, the likely causes of masturbation, and how you can start the gradual process of breaking free from the addiction to pornography and masturbation. So when I'm just starting this topic or podcast, this is episode number 4, I'll just read a Quora digest for you guys so that you can know the credibility or the triviality of the topic we want to discuss about today. So this is a question that was asked by a 12-year-old girl. 12 years, mind you, she's only 12. So you might want to dismiss this topic, say masturbation is not harmful, anyway, it's just a form of self-pleasure. I just want to ask you, and let me just read the question so that you know how deep the issue is in the modern society. So the girl says, I am a girl and I am just 14 years old. I masturbate 6 to 7 times daily, and she asks whether it's harmful. So there's another question by a 12-year-old girl who was exposed to masturbation barely at the age of 10. She's addicted to the issue and she feels like she's losing track, and she wants to know how she can stop the bad habit. So let me give you a little story about myself. I remember there's some time when I was in second year, and I didn't know porn. I grew up in a very staunch Christian family. So at this time, I was in this trauma. I was in this process of trying to, it was just painful. I had suicidal thoughts at this time. I didn't love myself. I literally hated the person I was. I didn't have a good relationship with my parents. I remember that time I had taken at least 4 months without talking to my dad, and everything was just pathetic about my life. So I was just idle, and as they say, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. So then an idea comes to me. I just type XXS videos, especially, when I was still young, there are people in my village who used to watch porn, and I didn't know why they were watching it. So I just remembered this thing, XXS videos. So I typed it, then it just brought out the videos, and this was porn, the videos of people having sex naked. So I start, let me just see what it's all about. So I start watching the first video. Then, at the first time I was, it's normal. There was nothing big about it. Later on, I find myself really glued to this thing. It's like I used to watch porn at least 9 times a day. And in the process, I would fap, I would masturbate. I remember there's a day I masturbated 12 times in a day, in a row. So I wasn't productive. I was addicted to this because it literally got me into this pathetic behavior. I couldn't do anything productive. My work focus, or the level of focus I had, was very pathetic. I couldn't do anything productive at a longer span. And today I'm here. I've broken free from masturbation. I stopped watching porn, and I'm really a different person. I've fixed my relationship with myself. I've fixed, on that journey of fixing my trauma. I've fixed my relationship with God, and it's literally the foundation to breaking this habit. So you find that this problem especially is affecting so many young people. Most people would want to dismiss it and be like, the shame that comes with admitting that you're addicted to porn, and you're you can't even tell your friends because they'll think you are a lesser person. You can't just approach girls, or maybe there's not, you don't have that confidence. Like, why you watching other people have sex on a screen, and then your imagination is triggered to the extent that you now have to pleasurize yourself. So I first of all didn't have the confidence to deny, to accept the scars, and now the guilt that comes with it, and the something that you hide means that it still has power over you. So there are a lot of young people out there who are really addicted to porn. They are, in the process, they find themselves masturbating, and especially in the current generation, you don't really need to watch porn to masturbate or to fap. With TikTok, with YouTube Shorts, with Facebook and IG Reels, there's so much soft core porn. You find there ladies dancing or twerking, or even if you go to YouTube, they are almost naked and they are showing these sex moves, or they are exposing their skin. And you find that if you're a person who has been addicted to porn at some point in your life, this is literally the easiest way that could trigger your feelings. So there's so much content out here. Social media has been on a span, like, people are getting glued to social media for long. And if you're using it for good, it's fine, but there's really a problem we need to analyze here. So young people are struggling with masturbation, young people are struggling with porn. So I want to analyze this issue in the 3-stage basis. So first of all, we'll look at the causes of porn, the consequences, and how you can fix this issue. So we'll start with the causes. So you find, I'll still bring you back to my issue with self-development and how it literally helps you unfold your life as a person. So let us analyze the early childhood life of very many people. It's either some of these people never grew up with that validation of their parents, or maybe they were neglected, or maybe they had insecurities about their sexual expression, because your sexuality, you try to understand your sexuality, you don't know anything about it, you just see organs growing on your body, or maybe you feel insecure about your sexual organs. So you find that it's really a thing about your growing up, or your experience as a teenager. If you have these parents who didn't validate you, then you don't have the confidence in yourself, especially as a man. You don't have a sense of origination. So it means you lack a purpose, so you feel like you're out of place. You don't feel like anybody loves you. You don't feel like there's so much pain in your life. Or maybe if you are subjected to domestic violence, or your parents were so harsh on you, maybe your dad used to beat you around, you find that there's so much pain, and so many people now have to find an alternative of numbing this pain. So there are alternatives of numbing the pain. Some succumb to depression, or now the depression, they come with, for example, they engage in substance abuse, for example, taking alcohol, addiction to weed, smoking weed and cigars, addiction to other drugs. And now there are other people now who succumb to masturbation, the addiction to porn and masturbation. First of all, because it's the only way they could numb their feelings. So I was in this category of the people who could numb their feelings, just because they didn't feel in any place. So I could watch porn, I could masturbate. The first time I was masturbating, I didn't really even know what I was doing. I was just like lying on my bed, and I was having these imaginations while I was watching these people have sex on the screen. I was imagining that I'm the person now being intimate with another person, and in the process you find that I triggered my mind, I rewired my mind into thinking that I was having sex with a lady, and then I had an orgasm, and then I released semen. So you find that at first, okay, the feeling was exhilarating. You find that, okay, there's that feeling that comes with after you've masturbated, like some sense of relief. But just after that, there's guilt, especially if you grew up in a Christian family. By the way, I grew up in a family where sex before marriage is really criticized, and you don't need to have sex before marriage. It's demonic, and so that really rewired my mind into thinking I can't have sex before marriage, and the only way I can satisfy my pleasure in like sexual pleasure was by having sex, because I wasn't taught till I came now to this journey of self-development, where I got to read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and there's a chapter that he talks about the art of sexual transmutation and why your sexual energy is the most, like it's the most, or is the greatest any energies that human beings have. So that's now I started understanding. So there's something like sexual transmutation, or how you can transmute your sexual energy. So okay, we are now tackling the issue about your early childhood upbringing and how it affects your how it lures you into the addiction to pornography and masturbation. So if you technically have a sense of lack of self-esteem, or maybe you struggle with self-confidence or self-identity, or there's a trauma that you got through that really affects, for example, there are people who are very, like, they were victimized sexually by their guardians or the people they grew around, so they have insecurities about their sexual identity. So the only way they feel comfortable is by trying to seek self-pleasure. That way nobody would judge their sexual energy or their tastes. So, and also as you grow up as a young man, you realize that sometimes you just have the curiosity to try and understand your sexuality. And because I think sexual education should be one of the greatest things that our parents should have taught us. But anyway, so you find yourself in this situation where you're trying to understand your sexuality, and now the only way now available, because with the internet available and no one to teach us about how we can use the internet for helping us become greater people, you find that we now start engaging in these bad addictions like watching porn and masturbation. So first of all, most of the people engage in watching porn to numb their feelings. Secondly, as we talked about, is the curiosity to understand your sexual identity. No one is here to teach you about your identity, and then you'll find that you'll at some point you'll realize that your organs or your sexual organs are growing, and then you have these urges, especially as a man or a woman, and you don't know how to tame your urges or control them. So the only way you can try to find out about your sexuality, if you're not bold enough to approach a woman, or if you grow up in these cultural aspects where sex before marriage was demonized, so you try to engage in self-pleasure, and before you realize it becomes addictive. Then the third aspect is about peer pressure. So there are people who never watched porn before, and then they find their friends watching porn, then they are lured into it by just a friend tells them, by there, have you ever tried watching this? Maybe they sent you a clip maybe at some point, and they tell you it's a video, so you try watching it and you realize it's porn, and that's when your addiction to it hits. Or some people are now, maybe the addiction just starts with this softcore porn, especially with TikTok. You see the girls that dance on TikTok, or if you go to IG Reels, okay, they are not really having sex with anyone, but the skin, or the way they are suggesting how they are, like they are dressed up, how their moves they are making on TikTok, how they are dancing. So you find that men now start to look for that, like you're scrolling up on TikTok, but you know what you're looking for. You're looking for that skin, some skin that will help you have some orgasm. And before you realize, you are lured into this shit. And bro, this shit is really messy. First of all, you just have to find a way to come out of it. So I've tried to analyze most likely the three main causes. First of all, it's an aspect of the pain or the trauma that you have not fixed, that most likely comes from either your childhood life, that might be with the victimization or sexual victimization. Number two, it might be from the trauma you have with how you related to your parents, the neglect, maybe you didn't have the validation, you lacked a sense of origin. Like for me, I felt like I was just a mistake. My birth was like a mistake, because I was trying to understand how comes that my stepbrother and I only have a margin of 3 months difference of age. And at this time I was growing up, life was literally brutal. Like my mom was forced to handle everything on her own, but later on my dad came in, and I appreciate because our relationship is good. So, and you can also fix your relationship with your parents, by the way, but if they are toxic, you just have to look for a way and forgive them, but move on in your life so that you don't hold yourself into a cage. So I've analyzed the three causes, and you have to identify where yours lies. Is it the addiction because of the trauma or the pain you went through? Is it because of some curiosity? You're trying to understand your sexuality, and no one was here to teach you about how you can tame your sexual urges and how you can try, like, it's normal to grow these organs, and maybe now how to understand your sexuality in a better way, that you don't have to engage in illicit sex or now to watch porn or masturbate just because you have the urges. And number three is the addiction, because you're introduced to porno and masturbation by your friends, and you are lured into the habit, you are stuck onto it, and you don't really know how to get out of the habit. So on the second limb of the podcast, we want to analyze the consequences of masturbation. Okay, so first of all, as I was masturbating, okay, sometimes the guilt will make me Google, like, okay, what are the consequences or the bad effects of masturbation? Of course, when you go to search on Google, don't trust the shit they post on Google. Go and search the other people, not the random things you get from these medical publications or anything. So they will tell me that masturbation has no bad health effects. It is just, in fact, it helps boost your health because you get the pleasure, you're trying to get the dopamine. So okay, I was lured into this shit, and okay, the data is fooling me too, because they are telling me it's a form of trying to understand your sexuality, helps you understand your sexuality, but it's really a lie. Masturbation does not even satisfy you sexually in any way. It just ties you to the lure, to the, like, addiction. Like, you can't do without this shit. For example, someone who is addicted to weed, they just have to smoke weed to feel better. So it's the same way with masturbation, and masturbation is just worse, because I was looking at a statistics by Stephen Bartlett, and it says that someone who smokes a weed is better off than someone who is addicted to masturbation, because the dopamine or the dopamine reward system that comes from engaging in masturbation is like taking a shot of cocaine and heroin combined. So imagine how vital that is. Like, imagine a shot of cocaine and heroin combined, and that is the same reward or the pleasure you are getting from a shot, like you fapping once, you masturbating once. So maybe you don't now understand how deep it goes. So as I was Googling, it didn't work. I was like, there's nothing bad, especially when you're starting. You don't feel like it's bad because you're only doing it once, maybe a day. Then you get to twice, then you get to thrice, then you realize that, I'm stuck into this shit, I can't do without it. So now, in my experience, that's when I started understanding the consequences of masturbation. For example, I told you I grew up in a Christian family. There was a guilt that will come, especially after masturbation, and it was the worst because it affected my identity about myself. I believed that now this is who I am. I masturbate and I watch porn. So that is my identity. And if you really define your identity by whatever you do, you literally rip yourself off the power to change that and become a better person. So I'm here stuck on watching porn and masturbating. I do it like 10 times a day. I remember there's a time I masturbated like 16 times in a day. I wasn't doing anything. I was just in the house. I never went outdoors. I never interacted with people. So I was just on social media, on my phone. I watch porn. When I get like a break, I could go and watch twerk videos on YouTube. So I literally killed my meat, especially my sexual organs. Like, at some point I got into these symptoms, the early symptoms of erectile dysfunction. Then it really hit me. I'm here stuck on masturbation and porn. My focus and productivity is really dwindling. I'm not productive in any way. My masculinity or the vitality of being a man is really dying, because there's nothing I can think of. I don't even have goals. I don't even have a purpose. I'm just here stuck on this lure, the loop of masturbation. So, okay, so let us delve into the consequences. First of all, especially if it depends with your cultural upbringing. Well, if you've grown up in areas where morality and religion or ethics has really been upheld, or you've really been told how important they are, first of all, you'll have the guilt. Then at some point when you get into masturbation, there's addiction. So I want to explain this in the concept that James Clear talks about in his book Atomic Habits. So he talks about a cue, like there's a trigger which initiates a cue, or the trigger or the cue is caused by a trigger, like the cue is the trigger point. Then there is a response, that is what you actually do. Then there's a reward. So now what you decide to do. So if you there's a cue, trigger, response, and reward. So the cue is whatever lures you. For example, for me, it was watching these girls on TikTok performing this, or I would just go on Pornhub and search these videos, especially the BBWs and everything. Then I would watch them. At some point, you find that as I was starting, I could only lift up once. But when it got later on, now this is the worst case scenario about masturbation. You see, something about the brain is that when you're engaging in this habit, first of all, you'll need to watch maybe a single video to masturbate. But when it gets with time, as you improve, you find that your dopamine level also increase. So it means the amount of energy or the amount of cue you'll need to satisfy the dopamine receptor so that they can release the dopamine, or now you can fap, is a lot. So maybe there's at a point I could try fapping on one video, it didn't work. So I could literally watch like 4-5 in a row. You change this, you watch like 3 minutes, you change it to another one. So before you realize, now it's like you need more porn to masturbate or to fap. So you are stuck in this shit. You need to watch more, and as it gets on, you are stuck in it. Then the third consequence is about you change your sexual receptor pathways. So for example, if you've been addicted to masturbation for long, you won't really know how to get intimate with a girl. Or if you're a girl, you won't feel satisfied when you get intimate with a man, because you've changed the neural pathways in your brain to thinking. So your brain now is used to seeing. You only get aroused when you see people having sex on a screen. So when you have a partner here on the real ground, you can't satisfy them. There's nothing they can do. Even if you try and have sex, it won't be as satisfying as that which you engaged in on the screen, watching people on the screen and then doing it with your hands, or maybe the dildos as ladies use them, and the vibrators and everything. So it literally affects you. You won't have a good relationship with your partner, and you find that, or your spouse or your girlfriend, and you find that now your social interaction skills will also be affected. Especially there's a connection between people who watch porn and instances of sexual victimization like rape. Or you find that, especially when so many young men have been forced to learn about sex by watching porn, so they get to become so much violent when they're engaging in sex with their girlfriends or partners, because this is how they think that the only way you can satisfy somebody is by doing whatever that person who was acting, that the porn artist was doing. Or at some point you find that you become violent, especially sexually violent around people, or you objectify women. Have you ever seen people in the streets who just look at everyone with that the pervert nature? Like, they just see women as sexual objects, so the only thing they think about is how they can sleep around with someone. It's because of how they are addicted to this porn. Then okay, the other point I talked about erectile dysfunction. Then the other thing you lose is your sense of origin or your purpose and focus in life. So you don't have anything to do, or even if you have goals, you want to work on them, because first of all, you can't manage your time, and you can't focus on anything productively, because it has really affected you to the extent that anytime you try to focus, your brain receptors, dopamine is the motivational hormone. So dopamine is what motivates you to focus on a goal, like the aspect of delayed gratification instead of instant gratification. Focus on a goal for a long time and work on it. Now after you've done the work, you now feel satisfied. But with now the social media and everything with porn and masturbation, is that it gives you the instant gratification. And the problem with instant gratification is that it deceives your brain to think that you've already achieved something good in life. So why should you work hard when your brain is already conceived that you've achieved a great thing just because you're masturbating or watching porn? It won't work. So then, about focus, you find that you can't do something for deep hours. For example, for me, I could try and study. The moment I just start studying, I've taken my phone. I'm now on Pornhub. I'm watching porn before I realize I'm fapping. Then after that, I can't do it anymore because the guilt comes in, and now I have to repeat this because I need that reward, the dopamine reward system. I still need more. It's like the cocaine shot. I just need more, so it won't work. Then the other thing, it distorts your human agility or vitality. You find that people who watch porn or masturbate do it a couple of times, or they are addicted to it with time. And especially as a man, your semen is your value as a man. So if you can't retain your semen, it means that you won't have that purpose, or you don't have the drive to become a good person or to do great things in life, because you don't have that energy reserve. Do you know sex takes a lot of energy from you? So if you engage in porn, it means you are literally losing off a lot of energy. Your vitality is being affected. You find that when you lose a lot of semen, you start having side symptoms, like, for example, you become weak and docile. You don't want to work hard in life, and you're just there complaining and whining and thinking that the world owes you a lot, when literally you should be off the screen and try to do something else. So I'm not trying to criticize you. I just want to tell you about the brutal consequences, and especially for a man, erectile dysfunction. Imagine, bro, you won't satisfy your woman, or for women, you won't be satisfied by your man, and you'll find that you have to get into, there are still spouses, people who are in marriage, and they are still lured into masturbation and pornography, and they can't really have this intimate or a healthy sexual relationship with their partners. And you find that most of them either end up divorced, or some cheat because my partner is not really satisfying me. Or you find that if somebody has been watching porn for a lot of time, now they try to mimic whatever has been done in the video to their own partner, and you find that you don't really have that genuine connection with them, sexual genuine connection, and with time it affects how people bond. So I've talked about the consequences. Of course, there are more. It's also an aspect of spirituality. The guilt will separate you from God. You'll be like, this is how the enemy now distances you from God. For example, with me, by the way, I ever gave a testimony that I had stopped masturbating. Then after just a month, it became worse. So the guilt is like, it's like now you've made a mistake and God can't forgive you. Now God is mad at you. Instead of understanding that you've made a mistake, recognizing or acknowledging your limitations and repenting, the guilt now separates you from God because it teaches you that you're an evil person. So we've talked about the causes, the consequences. I've just tried to shed a light on them, and now I'll tell you the stuff you can do to fight or overcome your addiction to porn and masturbation. So first of all, it comes with awareness. So you have to admit that I'm really struggling with porn and it's affecting me. I'm really struggling with masturbation and it's affecting me. So after awareness, you've admitted, you acknowledge that you're struggling. That is the first step. A lot of people tend to, because of the shame that is related to porn or masturbation, or because they don't want to express it because they feel like the guilt, or maybe people will judge them. So admit it. Say, I'm addicted to it and I'm trying to find a way to overcome it. So after awareness, now I tried working on this by my own intelligence, it didn't work. So there's a time I remember I was so down, I was so low. I just came and prayed to God. I told him, I've been trying to fight masturbation and my addiction to pornography for a lot of time, but it's not working. Please help me. At this point, I just need your mercy and grace. So after some point, you find that by the grace of God, by the fighting or breaking free from such bad habits, takes a lot of willpower, discipline, and determination. So at least you need that divine intervention to help you fight it. So when I prayed about this, now of course you also have to put in the work. So you acknowledge that you also need the spiritual help or the divine help from God. So after that, I looked at my life. I was like, now I need to eliminate these trigger points. So if your trigger point has been watching porn or watching this softcore porn content, for example, with the girls who are showing sexually suggestive content. So you have to, for example, with me, I decided I took a break from social media like for a whole year, trying just to fight this. It was brutal, of course. I lost a lot of friends, but anyway, it was for a worthy cause because I couldn't lose myself to keep people in my life. So I decided social media, like I deleted my Instagram, I deleted my TikTok account, I deleted my Facebook account, I reduced my time on YouTube, and I will only watch YouTube either outside or when I'm in the school. So now this is trying to avoid these tempting circumstances so that I don't get the trigger points which will necessitate me to take an action. So, and I literally at some point now, when it came to a point, I told myself I'll only be spending like 2 hours on the phone, and with these 2 hours I'll either be studying or calling my friends, or maybe if it's on WhatsApp, I'm talking about something constructive with a friend, then I'm off. So if your phone is your trigger point, start checking on how much time you spend on your phone. If it's social media, you'll have just to decide what will you choose. If your life is on the verge of a diversion, or your life is at a detriment and you have a phone here and someone is telling you either have to choose your phone or you choose your life, just be rational. What would you choose? Please, for your own life's sake, choose your life. So you have to reduce the amount of time you spend on social media. You have to cut off the trigger points. You know what your trigger point is. If it's softcore porn, you have to block those girls who are posting this sexually suggestive content. You also have to unfollow these people you've been following who have been giving you these triggers or the arousal. So if this girl or this socialite you've been following that is not adding any value to your life, but is just making you have these arousals for getting to watch porn or masturbate, you have to unfollow them. But first of all, I'll need you to delete your social media accounts for real. If you're really on the verge, you're really giving up, this shit is affecting you for the whole, like it's literally damaging, I need you to delete your social media accounts. I know it's painful, I know you won't like it, but this is the only way to save your life. Delete all the social media accounts and now focus also on your phone. You say, I need to check my screen time. I'll only be spending, like for me it was like I'll only be spending 2 hours on the phone. So for you it might be, you can move from 10 hours to maybe 5. You can also move from 5 to maybe 2. Gradually, it won't happen in an instance or a flashlight, but it will take time. Gradually, with the willpower, the determination, the discipline, it will work. So after you eliminate the trigger points, you also have to find some habits to replace this with. For example, for me, I decided now this time I've been spending on social media. For example, I decided no social media or no phone in the morning when I wake up, and no phones when I sleep, because I realized that I would tend to masturbate or watch porn a lot, either in the morning or at night, the last thing when I go to sleep. So for me, when I'm going to sleep, there's no phone, there's no social media. That is a rule to date, because I know myself. Sometimes you think you've healed, you deceive yourself, then the enemy is a liar. The trigger points just come and you find yourself fapping. So no phones early in the morning, no phones the last thing at night. For example, I would read my Bible or I would study a book, then sleep. Oh, okay, so you've reduced your screen time, you've eliminated your trigger points maybe by deleting your social media apps, and also deleting or unfollowing those socialites you've been following who are giving you the trigger points. Then the next thing I need you to do is replace these habits. For example, with the screen time, replace it with reading books or just journaling about, for example, with healing from the trauma. So I forgot to tell you about this. The journey to healing from also breaking free from masturbation also comes with, as I told you previously, the causes. You also need to try and ask yourself how or what causes this. What causes your addiction? What was the cause of your lure to masturbation? If it's an issue with insecurity or self-confidence, you have to start the journey to healing. For example, read self-development books. The first book I read when I was at my lowest point was Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. So it talks about detachment, letting go, forgiving your former version of yourself, and becoming a better person by now being intentional about what you want in your life. So I read that book and it also helped me. Then you can also replace, like I was talking about, replacement of habits. Replace screen time with reading books, journaling and meditation, or going out for walks. Or you can also do like gym. For example, if you would watch social media this time, decide I would take these 2 hours, go to the gym, do physical exercise. You find that when you come back to the house, you're tired and you need to rest. So you won't take now your phone to engage in such useless habits. Or the next thing you can do is socialize more with girls or people, so that you try to interact with them. So also that you also know now that I also interact with people, not because you want to sleep with them, but it also helps you. You see, when you're in the house, especially indoors for a lot of time, you are idle. But when you get out there, you become a human, or your social interaction skills increase, and you find that you meet people of different personalities and you spend time doing a lot of stuff. So you won't have so much time to think about such hedonistic behaviors. The other thing you need to do is just join a community of people who have maybe been struggling with the same, or who are intentional about helping other people who have been struggling with masturbation and porn, and you have to trust them. So don't go out there, look for someone who will share your story to criticize you or will mock you. By the way, it's not like masturbation and porn is affecting very many people in the universe or in the world. So don't feel like you are alone. There are a lot of people who are struggling with the same, and you can decide to become better and change your life like I did, and God will help you through the process. The last thing I need you to do is be patient with yourself. It won't happen in an instance. You'll find that at some point you will relapse and engage in the habit, but the power lies in, like when you fall down, you have to dust yourself off and really get back to the journey. And you, with patience and consistency, especially with now cutting off the trigger points, you will start advancing toward becoming a better person, and also develop meaningful relationships. If you've just been having friends who talk about having sex with women, taking alcohol, engaging in degenerate activities, then you find that you'll still have the struggle, because, or maybe if your friend is the one who will lure you into watching porn or masturbating, then you have to cut them off because they don't serve the current version of yourself in any way. So adopt or look for people who are serious about their lives. Focus on a goal or a skill you want to learn, because now you also set your dopamine receptors towards delayed gratification instead of instant gratification. So be patient with yourself. Be serious and brutal with yourself too, because breaking free from your addiction to porn and masturbation is not as easy as you think. Be serious and intentional about this, but be patient, knowing that it will take some time. So I just want to wish you all the best in your recovery. Know that God is here for you. God will help you change your identity, and everything will be fine. You just need to make that step today to cut off the trigger points, to heal from your trauma, and to become the better version of yourself that you've been looking forward to. Until next time, I leave you with the peace of the Holy Spirit. See you on episode number 5. Thank you.